Hey, what's up guys? So this is going to be a little review of the whole paleo lecture that we gave yesterday. Going to be really quick and brief, mainly hitting on the main points. For those of you that missed it, we're not going to upload the whole video because it's about an hour long. And there was a lot of kind of back and forth discussions. Okay? So we'll get over exactly a quick little synopsis of these things, and then you guys can ask further questions in the classes. Okay? So one thing we want to talk about first is the nutrition pyramid for CrossFit is, or the actual pyramid, just the CrossFit pyramid. What it talks about is it starts with nutrition at the base of the pyramid, goes up to metabolic conditioning, which is like cardio, gymnastics, weightlifting, and peaks out at sport. Okay, so the main thing is with that is that nutrition is the foundation of all that. So in other words, for all of these to do well and progress and get better, we need to have nutrition solidified and solid as our base of the pyramid. Okay? So most people understand that nutrition makes up about 70 to 80% of the body composition, which is really going to be the best thing for you. Okay? You guys have learned that after kind of focusing on this for the challenge. Okay? So we want to talk real briefly about what they're called the 3 macronutrients. There's carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and all foods are either in one of those categories or in a combination of those categories. Okay? So to just confirm so everyone's on the same page, carbs are starches, sugars, fruit, and vegetables. So fruit and vegetables is something that most people aren't really always aware of that are actually carbs, but they're definitely carbs. Okay? So protein then would be any source of meat, fish, eggs. You could also say dairy, which is kind of a combination of the 3, like milk and cheese and such. But meat, fish, and eggs are specifically protein. Okay? And then also lastly the fats, nuts, seeds, oils, avocado, all things kind of in that general area. Okay? So what we want to know about these things, carbs first. Carbs, the main thing about carbs is that the more carbs you have, the higher the insulin response. Okay? So insulin in your body, we've all heard about insulin. We don't know all too much about it per se. But in general, what it does is it helps you store your energy for later. Okay? So when you store that energy for later, what happens is that if we don't burn it all off, then it then turns to fat. Okay? So the majority of people, if we're eating too much starchy carbs or too much sugars or something like that, too much being stored, not enough for us to burn off, even if we're doing a lot of exercise, and then that turns straight to fat. Okay? So carbs in turn can go straight to fat. Yeah, the premise, we'll talk about the paleo diet obviously, but fruit and vegetables is much more common in it, and with those you cannot easily overeat to really spike your insulin nearly too much. Okay? So also with fats, anything you want to know about fats is that they're actually really good for your brain and your nervous system. Okay? And if you get the right amount of them, which is not too many per se, but fats can actually help you burn fat. Alright? So don't be scared of fats, they're not necessarily bad for you. They're actually necessary as long as they're the good, healthier fats. Okay? So with that, what we want to talk about is the satiety effect. Okay? So some of you may not know what satiety is. What it is it's the body's ability to recognize food and then how full it is after eating that food. Okay? So what we have is there's a some of foods, some style of foods, or some of these macronutrients are actually have a higher satiety effect than others. Okay? So what we have here, we have protein, which is first on the list. So if you think about examples, right, protein, and the more you eat of it, you definitely feel pretty full, usually pretty soon, right? So what that does is your body, your stomach, your nervous system all goes up, tells your brain that you're full quicker, okay? So you don't often overeat on protein. If you do, you can't really do it to a really harmful effect. Fats are second on that list, pretty close. So fats are good. They will actually tell you also that you're fairly full, close to protein. Carbs are pretty far down the list. Okay? So carbs, and if you think again about examples, the more you eat of them, you can continue to eat until you finally hit that wall later on, way past the time that you should have eaten that many carbs, right? And you feel really lethargic, really heavy, and it hurts, right? Because like sugar or something like that, you can eat a ton of it, but right at the end, boom, finally it hits you. You should have told yourself you're full earlier, and then you've eaten way too much at the time. Okay? So one thing to think about when talking about carbs, proteins, and fats, carbs, high insulin, right? The higher the insulin, especially with the starches and the sugars, the higher the insulin, the more at risk you are for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, right? Heart disease, cancer risk, and all those kind of things, okay? Everything that's really bad, obesity, stuff like that, okay? So, with that, we'll transition into what is paleo, right? So we're talking about the paleo challenge. What we want to do for that, paleo is really the caveman diet, okay? So, it's considered, the premise behind it is that you're going to eat foods that our genetics are derived off of, what our beings millions of years ago could only catch and hunt and eat, right? So that we're actually developed, we're meant to break these nutrients down and these foods down, and it's actually good for us, right? So that's mainly it. Mainly what we would consider it would be meat, veggies, fruit, nuts, and seeds. It's pretty much all of what you eat on a paleo diet, okay? So with that, I'm going to talk real quick about one of these lists that we have that has all these good and bads, okay? We'll just go over a few of these things, but in general, what's good? Almonds, almond butter, sweet potatoes are good, avocados, mustard, and you guys can kind of go all the way through this, right? Main idea, meat, fish, fruit, nuts, seeds, okay? Bad, which is really surprising to a lot of people. They're not really sure, or they wouldn't think about it as something, at least not considered paleo if they think about that, would be peanuts or peanut butter. They're different than all the other nuts, so just stay away from those for this challenge. Potatoes, regular potatoes, way too starchy, pretty much man-made. Corn as well. Corn is the same type thing. It's been so genetically altered and processed that it's actually not really good for our insulin. Sauces, like condiments and stuff like that, ketchup, barbecue, loaded with sugar. Okay, so keep those out as much as you can. Juices, most juices are almost like sodas nowadays, other than the fully fresh squeezed 100%, which is still going to be a lot of sugar anyway that you're going to want to keep an eye on or stay away from if you can. Bread, rice, pasta, and sugar. That's the biggest thing that we want to stay away from in this, okay? You guys can get anything out of this whole diet, stay away from the bread, rice, pasta, and sugar, okay? On here, on this sheet, there's a lot of good websites to go on, recipes and all that kind of stuff. There's a good little shopping food thing on robwolf.com, which is on there. And also, we'll be posting stuff on the Facebook page as well, so keep checking it out. Lastly, there's a lot of good places to shop for all these foods. At the bottom, it tells you kind of where they are. Lots of farmers markets, other good areas to get that food, okay? So, eating out, we want to talk real quick about eating out, because a lot of people are going to obviously eat out in this, and they're nervous as to how they can keep this going. The main thing is you just need to know exactly what paleo foods are, and you can eat pretty much anywhere, okay? So, paleo foods, again, meat, veggies, nuts, seeds, and some fruit, okay? So, try to find those. You can ask things not to be cooked in butter. You can always substitute stuff. If you go to like a flame broiler, which I went to recently, just ask for no rice. Get it on extra vegetables. Just don't add the sauce. Okay, it's not that bad. It's actually really tasty, and you feel good after it. We talked about an In-N-Out example where you pretty much can get meat patties, lettuce wrapped or protein style, grilled onions. Just don't get it with ketchup. Good with mustard, all that kind of stuff. Chipotle is great. You can get through those. Any type of Mexican place where you can put all the stuff together, just try to stay away from the corn and beans and like the sour cream and the rice. Okay. Again, you can come to us for examples on those and other stuff if you have more questions. Okay. So shopping, real quick, just make sure to stay in ideally the perimeter of your grocery store, because that's where you're going, except for the bakery. Obviously, stay out of the bakery, but the perimeter usually has all the good food, the produce, the meats, and the fruits and stuff like that. So what you want to do, obviously real food spoils, which is how your body's able to break it down. If you get something processed that's going to stay on your shelf for a couple of years without actually spoiling, it's not going to be really good for you to break down. Okay? So stay on the perimeter of the grocery store. Most of the aisles are actually just processed food. Okay? Let's see, reading food labels. You don't really want to have to look at too many food labels. If you do, look at the ingredients. That'll help you figure stuff out. There's some good bars called like a Lara bar, which are at like Sprouts and other places. They're made up of predominantly just like dates and nuts and some different fruits here and there. So those are good for you. Those are paleo. Other things that you can't pronounce in those ingredient lists are probably not good for your body. Okay. Let's see. Also, there's the staples. Try to purchase all those that are on the list. If you're able to eat those, look at the recipes online on the websites that we gave you, or look up other ones. Then you should be pretty good. Lastly, buy emergency meals. So have things in the freezer for yourself, like meat or something easily cookable. I always have like these already cooked chicken strip things, and I'll put those on a skillet with some olive oil and some shredded bell peppers. And it's like fajitas in its own right, in like less than 10 minutes. Okay. Lastly, we'll talk about the challenge. So the challenge, first thing, we want you guys to try to take measurements. We want everyone to take measurements ahead of time, which would be like they call it the waist to hip ratio. Okay, so the waist to hip ratio, you grab a tape measure or a shoelace or whatever it is, put it around your narrowest point of your waist, which would be usually for most people it's like just above the belly button. Okay, put it there, measure it out in centimeters. Okay, write that down, and then you measure around your hip at its widest point. Okay, measure that in centimeters, and you divide the two. So waist divided by hip, find like it should be like point something or 1 point something, right? And then we'll again test that at the end, see how you guys have changed for that. Okay, take before and after photos. Okay, take before and after photos. You want to have right front, side, and back view in tight clothes, and also something we don't need to see them. It can be with your own type of photos. We don't need them. We're gonna do tests, physical tests, like on Monday, tomorrow, right? And then also right at the end of the challenge to see how much you improve. And lastly, with this, you're going to write down your date. The date starts Monday, 21st. Meals, you're going to get up to 4 points. If you do full paleo for the whole day, you get 4 points. 3 points would be adding a little bit of stuff like ketchup and barbecue sauce and stuff. 2 would be like a whole serving of like a potato. 1 would be a couple servings. 0 would be a whole wash of the day. Okay? Sleep, you'll get a bonus point if you get 8 hours or more of sleep. It's rough, but try it. That if you're laying down, the lights are off, we'll count that. Okay? If you're not falling asleep in. Fish oil, more than 3 grams per day. Ask us how to get that if you need to. Would be a bonus point. And if you do a workout in here, you also get a bonus point. So get the sheet from us, follow your daily totals, make a goal for yourself, make an overall goal and a weekly goal. Okay? Ask us questions if you guys have questions, and we're here for you. Support each other, and let's get after it.